The crowd of 100,000 roared as the opening chords rang out across Villa Park in Birmingham. It was July 5, 2025, and the Prince of Darkness was about to take his final bow. But what the audience didn't see, what they couldn't possibly know, was happening just feet away from the microphone. Zakk Wylde, Ozzy Osbourne's longtime guitarist, was quietly becoming more than just a musician that night. He was becoming a lifeline. Picture this: a 76-year-old legend, weakened by Parkinson's disease and multiple spinal surgeries, standing before his hometown crowd one last time. The voice that had defined heavy metal for over 5 decades was faltering. And in those crucial moments, it was his guitarist, his friend of nearly 4 decades, who stepped in to save the show. This is the untold story of vulnerability, brotherhood, and the price of being a rock god until the very end. The relationship between Ozzy Osbourne and Zakk Wylde began in 1987, when a young, unknown guitarist from New Jersey auditioned for what would become one of rock's most enduring partnerships. Wylde was just 19, a kid with bleached blonde hair and an attitude that matched his blistering guitar skills. Ozzy, meanwhile, was searching for someone to replace Jake E. Lee, and something about this brash young musician caught his attention. What followed was pure magic. Together, they created some of the most memorable music in heavy metal history. Albums like No Rest for the Wicked and No More Tears became classics, with Wylde's distinctive guitar work becoming as recognizable as Ozzy's vocals themselves. But their relationship was never just professional, it was deeply personal. Forged in the fires of countless tours, late-night recording sessions, and shared experiences that only they could understand. Over the years, their partnership would ebb flow. They'd work together, then apart, then together again. Wylde left in 1995, only to return in 2001. He departed again in 2009, but came back for what would be the final chapter in 2017. Through it all, their bond remained unbreakable, the kind of friendship that transcends business arrangements and contractual obligations, but nothing could have prepared Wylde for what he would witness at that final show by 2024. When Ozzy was inducted as a solo artist into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the once mighty performer was seated for the entire show. The man who had once bit the head off a bat, who had urinated on the Alamo, who had defined rebellion for generations of fans, was now battling his own body just to perform. The Back to the Beginning concert was meant to be a farewell that would cement Black Sabbath's legacy forever. The original lineup was reuniting for the first time in 20 years. Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward were all there, ready to create magic one more time. But as the night progressed, it became clear that this wouldn't be the triumphant farewell anyone had envisioned. When we got the acoustic out, I had to be like, keep the guitar away from the microphone so I can sing. Because Oz's voice was having trouble at certain notes, Wylde revealed. Imagine the weight of that moment, realizing that your friend, your mentor, the voice you've supported for decades, needs you in a way he's never needed you before. I was like, I need to make sure I'm always there so I can double him. I was like, I gotta get near the microphone, so I had to almost stop playing, lift the guitar up, and put it over the mic, Wylde explained. Picture the scene. A master guitarist, someone whose entire identity is wrapped up in the instrument in his hands, literally setting it aside to become a voice for his friend. The crowd was witnessing history, but they had no idea they were also witnessing one of the most beautiful acts of friendship in rock and roll history. While 100,000 fans sang along to Mama, I'm Coming Home, and Crazy Train. Wylde was quietly ensuring that Ozzy's voice would be heard, even when his body was failing him. It was like juggling balls or chainsaws while being on a skateboard. Wylde said, describing the challenging performance. It was actually pretty funny, but it was business as usual. It's supposed to be the most important show ever, but everything's on the fly. That's the thing about true professionals, about real friendship. They make the impossible look effortless. While Wylde was internally scrambling to support his friend, he maintained the facade that everything was normal. The show must go on, and somehow it did. But the signs were there for those who knew how to look. Concert-goers witnessed Ozzy reaching for throat spray multiple times throughout the evening. Each reach was a small surrender, a tiny acknowledgement that the body that had carried him through 5 decades of rock and roll was finally demanding its due. The performance itself was bittersweet. Ozzy managed to perform a medley of his solo material songs that had defined not just his career, but the very essence of heavy metal. Shot in the Dark, Flying High Again, I Don't Want to Change the World. Each song was a chapter in the book of his life, and he was reading the final pages. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the Black Sabbath reunion. Tony Iommi's guitar rang out with the opening notes of Iron Man, and for a moment, time seemed to reverse. There they were, the 4 men who had essentially invented heavy metal, together on stage one last time. The crowd erupted as they launched into Paranoid, and despite everything, despite the struggles and the health issues and the exhaustion, Ozzy found something deep inside himself for these final songs. But even in these moments of triumph, Wylde was there, watching, ready to step in if needed. It's a level of care and attention that goes far beyond professional obligation. This was love in action, messy, imperfect, but absolutely genuine. What makes this story even more poignant is what happened after the show. Wylde admitted he never got a chance to say a proper goodbye to his longtime friend and collaborator, revealing that the backstage area was jam-packed. He resolved to give Ozzy a break because he assumed he would see him later on. Think about that decision. After everything they'd been through, after supporting Ozzy through what was clearly a difficult performance, Wylde made the conscious choice to give his friends space. The backstage area was chaos: family, friends, industry people, everyone wanting a piece of the legend. And Wylde, who had every right to demand time with the man he'd served so faithfully, stepped back. Everybody and their mother were in the backstage dressing room, and I just wanted to give him a break, he explained. 'Twas an act of selflessness that perfectly encapsulates their relationship, even in what turned out to be their final moment together. Wylde was thinking of Ozzy's well-being first. Sadly, that was not to be the case. He revealed that Ozzy did text him after the madness had died down, apologizing for not getting a chance to speak with him and thanking him for everything. Imagine receiving that text. After 38 years of friendship, tours, albums, fights, reconciliations, and shared dreams, their final communication was Ozzy apologizing and saying thank you. It's the kind of ending that Hollywood would reject for being too heartbreaking, too real. The Black Sabbath frontman, known as the Prince of Darkness, died on Tuesday at the age of 76, 17 days after that final performance. The voice that had defined heavy metal fell silent forever. But in those final moments on stage, with Wylde quietly singing back up, lifting his guitar away from the microphone to ensure Ozzy's voice could be heard, something beautiful happened. It wasn't just about preserving a performance or maintaining a professional facade. It was about dignity. It was about allowing a legend to go out on his own terms, supported by someone who understood not just his music, but his heart. Zakk was among the invited guests at Ozzy's private burial on Thursday, July 31st, and was spotted entering the Osbournes' Buckinghamshire mansion carrying 2 12-string guitars. Those guitars, instruments of creation, of expression, of the very art form that had brought them together, were Wylde's final tribute to his friend. The story of that final show isn't really about vocal struggles or health issues or the inevitable decline that comes with age. It's about friendship. It's about showing up for someone when they need you most. Especially when they can't ask for help directly, in a world of social media and instant communication, where relationships are often measured in likes and shares. The bond between Ozzy and Zakk represented something ancient and precious. It was forged in the analog world of recording studios and concert halls, strengthened by shared struggles and triumphs, and ultimately proven in those final moments when one friend literally lent his voice to another. We live in an age where authenticity is rare, where genuine connection is often sacrificed for commercial success. But on that July night in Birmingham, in front of 100,000 people, something real happened. A young guitarist who had once auditioned for his hero became the voice that would help that hero say goodbye to the world. The Prince of Darkness may have left the stage for the final time, but the bond between two musicians, two friends, had already achieved something that will outlast any recording or performance. They had shown us what it means to truly have someone's back, to be there when it matters most, to love someone enough to help them be their best self, even when their body is failing them. That's the real story of Ozzy's final show. Not the struggle, but the support. Not the ending, but the enduring power of friendship. In a world that often feels cold and disconnected, Zakk Wylde lifted his guitar away from the microphone and sang for his friend. And in doing so, he reminded us all what it truly means to be human. The music will live forever, but the love, that quiet, unspoken, absolutely essential love between two friends, that's what made it all possible. That's what made Ozzy's final performance not a tragedy, but a triumph, because in the end, he wasn't alone. He had someone who would literally give him their voice when his own began to fail. And sometimes, that's all any of us really need.